Kirby continued dragging Escargoon around the castle, skipping around looking for a specific room. Escargoon looked completely confused as he was pulled, few of the partygoers following along.
He has no idea what's about to happen.
Megalor giggled as he flew near Meta Knight. A small chuckle escaped Meta Knight, which caused Megalor to blush once more.
He will be quite surprised, won't he?
Meta Knight answered, seeming somewhat excited, but not too noticeable. Only to Megalor. Marks glared over to the two and smirked.
I see you took my advice, Megalor.
Megalor's face got bright red as he glared over, staying close to Meta Knight. Meta Knight glared as well and proceeded to speak once more.
Marks, our conversations are none of your business.
Meta Knight said calmly. Marks smirked more in response.
Yeah, none of my business. Sure.
Marks teased as he walked in front of the others. Bandana D walked in his bodyguard stance.
Marks, I highly suggest you do not make fun of one of our finest knights.
Bandana D opened one eye to look at Marks.
What's the problem with a little playing around? I mean, look at him, come on!
Megalor sighed and stayed near Meta Knight still, looking somewhat embarrassed. Meta Knight noticed how he was feeling and proceeded to gently grab Megalor's hand reassuringly. The moment Megalor felt his hand being held, his face turned all hot pink, as Meta Knight shyly looked away once more, just hoping it made him feel better about Marks' silly teasing. Bandana D looked over from the two holding hands back to Marks, who looked cocky as ever.
Well, it's still not right to tease them.
Marks ignored Bandana D as he walked in front of him. In the back of the whole group, following Kirby and Escargoon, was Tuff and a very annoyed Tiff. Tiff scolded as she looked away from her brother. Tuff knew she was annoyed and decided to comment.
What, Tiff? You're making that face again?
Tuff inquired, looking annoyed at his sister, and her obvious gestures.
Oh, nothing.
Tiff said, sounding particularly ticked off. Tuff huffed a bit and started to get just as annoyed as his sister.
Look, Tiff, what I said back there was a joke! Nothing more than some harmless fun!
Tuff defended himself the best way he knew how. Of course, his sister had something to say in return.
It wasn't funny. He was scared, Tuff, and it was your fault for making a joke like that and making him so uncomfortable.
Tiff began to tell off her brother for his actions.
Well, maybe Escargoon shouldn't have been a stick in the mud and took it for what it was, a joke!
Tuff yelled out, sounding annoyed because of all the accusing. Tiff just sighed loudly as she walked after a few minutes before she spoke again.
Wasn't right to do that to him. That's all I'm saying.
Tuff sighed loudly.
Fine. Later I'll apologize.
He spoke quietly, admitting defeat. Tiff nodded and smiled.
Good. It's the right thing to do.
She smiled as he walked, as Tuff, in an agitated way, followed behind. Kirby had led Escargoon to a large room in the palace with a very big window in the room. It was mostly empty. Escargoon assumed this room was saved for special occasions.
Kirby, why'd you leave me in here?
Escargoon wondered as he looked around the room. Kirby stood facing Escargoon, looking almost like as if he were waiting for the others to come in to begin his little plan. Escargoon stood there, watching everyone walk inside. He felt a tad bit nervous, feeling himself sweat a bit. What was everyone planning? What was even going on? Kirby, after seeing everyone, had walked in, began to speak.
Boya, 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 boya.
Escargoon stared down at the pink puff, having no clue what he was saying.
Boya, boya, boya.
Kirby asked, his eyes looking very hopeful, staring at Escargoon. Escargoon knew he was being asked a question, and a very important one at that. Only problem, he had no clue what the question was. Meta Knight stepped up to explain, seeing the snail was in total confusion.
Well, Escargoon, what Kirby is saying in a nutshell is that he has seen that you have changed very much, and he is proud of how much you have tried to become a better person.
Escargoon smiled nervously in response.
I'm really not that great, but, thanks, Kirby.
Kirby nodded and waited for Meta Knight to explain the rest.
He has asked you if you want to become one of his friends, or as we call it, one of the Star Allies.
Meta Knight announced, trying to make it sound as exciting as he could, so that Kirby would be happy. Escargoon's eyes widened, still confused but intrigued.
Star Ally?
Escargoon asked, confused.
A Star Ally is someone who basically goes on adventures with Kirby, who helps him out and stuff. But basically, it's like an official title of one of Kirby's best friends.
Mark spoke loudly as he stepped up.
Everyone who becomes a Star Ally has a small star badge that is given to them, see?
Megalor beamed as he showed off his star badge. Everyone else around showed their star badges as well. Escargoon was touched. Kirby wanted him as an ally? Escargoon looked down to see Kirby holding up the badge, offering for Escargoon to take it.
Will you be my star ally?
Kirby attempted to speak out, hoping Escargoon would now full-on get what he meant. Escargoon felt tears well up in his eyes as he stared down at the badge. He gently took it out of Kirby's hand, making soft weeping sounds as he looked at it. He put it on his suit and smiled lightly.
Yes, of course I will, Kirby.
Escargoon let out as he held Kirby up in his arms. Kirby laughed as he was picked up and held by Escargoon. His smile was wider than it had ever been. The others gave him a round of applause as they watched. It was truly a beautiful sight to see. Escargoon continued to hug Kirby, smiling as tears fell from his face.
Thank you, Kirby. This means everything to me. Everything.